Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from Elder well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit, and I'm entitled this one, Babylon the Great is done. And what is Babylon the Great? What kingdom, what city would be Babylon the Great? It's ultimately what we call today the United States of America, which is the hammer of the earth, which all these nations once feared after what happened during the climax of the Second World War with the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, which gave the U.S., America, Babylon the Great, that upper hand in having dominion over the other nations because of their power, their military might. That's why it went throughout the different countries offering so-called help. We'll defend you if you allow us to put our military bases here. If you allow us to impose our ideologies, our philosophies, our currency, the U.S. dollar. And then after a while, it eventually formed these pretty much a covenant, or I wouldn't even say a covenant, but a treaty with these Arabian countries, with the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, so on and so forth. But now that America, Babylon the Great, has lost its power, throughout the history, now what's happening? Now America, Babylon the Great, is losing that respect and is losing it rapidly, because ultimately America, Babylon the Great, it was just supposed to be an experiment from these Rothschilds and these Rockefellers, so they could squeeze all this money out of these people. And now we see these people crashing out, bugging out, because they can't make ends meet, because a dollar is done. These elite banking families, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, they're about to collapse this thing. They're about to bring in that great reset, the NWO, the New World Order, which is going to be a digital prison. But yet, majority of the world, they don't even know that's happening. They think that America, Babylon the Great, still has another, or they don't even think it's going to collapse. They think that it's going to keep on being on the planet Earth, continue to be a kingdom, for eternity. But that's not the case. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is about to destroy this wicked and corrupted place, like it says in Amos chapter 9. The eyes of the Lord are upon this sinful kingdom. The Lord is about to collapse this thing very quickly. He's about to put the spirit, like it says, he's going to put an evil thought in these kings. And that's going to be the end of America. Is going to be a thermonuclear destruction by the way of those intercontinental ballistic missiles that all these countries have been testing out over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, Russia, testing out their Satan 2, their ICBM. So we're right full of sicknesses, illnesses, diseases. Everybody's stressed out by this American lifestyle. People once believed in that American dream. That if you work hard like the white man, then eventually it's gonna pay off and you're gonna be equal like him. But no, now all these people in the world, especially here in America, now they're starting to find out that American dream was all bullshit. Along with these countries that they're still in league, but really they're cutting those ties off. That's why they're forming the BRICS, trying to, or I ain't even gonna say trying, but making their way around the U.S. dollar. That's what's happening now. These countries are trading in the Chinese currency, the yuan, because the dollar's through. People are done dealing with the dollar. It's a fiat currency. And that's why all these nations, like the scripture says, let the weak say I'm strong. Now all these nations that were once scared of America, that were once, even to speak against America was considered, oh no, they're gonna nuke us, they're gonna bomb us. Now you got all these countries, North Korea, Russia, talking about, man, to hell with America. So this is only the beginning of the downfall of this kingdom. It's not going to be healed. Like it says right here, verse 8, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed because it's already been, quote unquote, with all these bailouts, these government bailouts, these bailouts for these corporations, getting tax cut. The whole 2020 ordeal, you had people getting stimulus checks. That was a form of a bomb, a healing bomb, a healing agent for America. But these elites, these Rothschilds, these Rockefellers, they're done healing America and trying to, quote unquote, make America great again. That's not going to happen. And you got Nero 47, Trump, showing that he's not about actually hearing America. He's doing the complete opposite. He started another war. He promised that gas prices were going to go down. And they doubled. Talking about inflation is going to go down. Inflation, I think, is at an all-time high. Went up to 3.8%. So these Edomites, these self-proclaimed white people, they just been lying, not just to the average folk, but to their own people, to the red-blooded Edomites, the patriots that believed that Nero was going to somehow fix all this bullshit. He's not. Trump is only helping fulfill biblical prophecy more and more. And we believe through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim El-Shai, he's gonna be the one that brings in that MOTB, the mass implementation of the RFID microchip that's written about in Revelation. Verse 9, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. And that's why you see all these heathen nations, these foreigners, these so-called Arabs, which are the Ishmaelites, these so-called Indians, which are the Elamites, and even Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. He's packing up bags. He's closing up businesses. That's why you see a lot of empty downtown buildings, because even Esau, they tend to know, they know that this place is done. That's why they're moving, to other countries. They're moving to the Philippines, moving to Southern America, because they know that this place, once it collapses, is going to be all hell breaking loose. It's going to be nasty out here. Because these Americans, these Babylonians, they're so used to comfort. They're not used to adversity. They're not used to struggling. So for Esau to just collapse this thing overnight, these people are going to bug the hell out. You're going to have the purge out here. You're going to have civil war. You're going to have martial law, Jacob's trouble, a time like no other. But it's only right for these wicked-ass 2/3 Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and these proud-ass heathens. Because Jake, the tribes, that's these elite banking families, the 1%, that did their own people like that. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 12. People's jobs are getting replaced with AI and automation, especially white-collar jobs. But these people were once proud as all hell a couple years ago. They were oh no, my job is recession-proof. Okay, but it wasn't AI-proof. This is Ecclesiastes 12, and in that spirit no more. They're not looking forward to going to their jobs and grinding it out, because these jobs, they're not raising up, that salary, the hourly wages. They're keeping it the same. Here in Texas, the minimum wage is still $7.25. It's been $7.25 for 20 years. $7.25. What are you going to do with that? A gallon of gas is damn near $7 now. Over there in California, it's already $6, $7. Over here in Texas, $4, $5. So $5 and some change for some diesel. So all these businesses that rely on oil, on gas, They're feeling that squeeze because of the Strait of Hormuz being closed. But it shouldn't even be like that, because the U.S., they produce the most oil. They have the largest oil reserves, but yet they're not helping out their own people, because they don't want this place to bounce back. They're purposely allowing this place to collapse. It's a controlled demolition, because they're about to bring in that new world order, the Great Reset, the digital surveillance AI prison that these elites been planning for decades. That's why in Revelation chapter 12 it says they're about to come down with that great wrath. They're about to collapse this thing. People don't have that same option. Go to work, I'm gonna get a promotion, and I'm gonna look forward to this vacation. People don't have that money to go on vacation, to take their family out for some dinner. No, people are struggling. They're having to choose between paying rent or eating, keeping the light bill on, or keeping the phone bill paid. And it's only going to get worse. This is verse 4. And the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. And he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. And that's what's happening. The grinding is low. People are jobs are getting cut. They're getting their hours cut. Certain incentives, maybe they had a company card, pump gas in their car. That's all being taken away. People aren't receiving those Christmas bonuses. People are crying out because they're not receiving that same, incentives and pay that they used to receive back in the day. But that's because this economy, they're still able to pump gas at $4 to $5. They're still able to go to the grocery store, and everything's fine. But all hell's breaking loose. We're at the verge of the collapse of America, Babylon the Great. The collapse of the modern day Rome, the revived Roman Empire, which we're currently in, being ran by Esau, Edom. This is, let's see, Isaiah 19 and verse 4. It says, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, said the Lord. And Rome down, and he blamed, the so-called Christians, which were the believers of Yahushua, persecuted them, got them, put to death, executed. That's the same spirit that Nero 47, Trump is coming in. He already has all these concentration camps. You had the alligator Alcatraz. You have all these ICE detention centers. These are all just the beginning of this dystopian society that's unfolding in front of everybody's faces. You got data centers popping up left and right. They're sucking up all the water, sucking up all the electricity. Having towns to cut off their light, usage and their water usage because of these data centers. That's cruel as all hell, but that's this devil, Esau, Edom, ruling over the people. That's why Yahweh Bashim Shai is about to bring this devil down, because worried about himself. And in the way that Trump is ruling, he's straight up telling the people that he don't care about them. Talking about, posting it on his social media site, talking about, oh, I don't care that the gas prices are going up. I'm not worried about that. That's a cruel Lord. I mean, he's mean and funny at the same time, but that's Esau Edom for you. That's the self-proclaimed white man. He's laughing in front of his own citizens' faces, of his own people. He's laughing at Joe Six-Pack Edomite. But it's only the beginning. It's only going to get worse, because there's not going to be any jobs. There's not going to be any work. There's not going to be any food in the grocery stores. So what's going to be the only thing is for people to go from house to house, going into that purge type scenarios, civil war, all these movies that Esau and Side, like, we're telling you what we're going to do. If it's pretty much like Ezekiel chapter 3 and Ezekiel 33 on the left-hand side, they're showing this predictive programming. When people look at it, they're like, oh man, no, that's just a movie. That's never going to happen. The Matrix, oh, that's just a movie. The Terminator, nah, that's just a movie. That's never going to come. But Esau Edom, he's about to come down with that great wrath. He's about to come, with those robot dogs, those Terminator type androids, to put people to death. But yet people think elites, these elite banking families, Benjamin, not a Jew, they're moving swiftly because they know that this place is done. So they got to get their new world order so they can bring in that great reset ASAP. And that's what they're doing. This is what this whole straight up. It's not about worried about Iran and, they got a nuclear weapon. No, this is so they could speed up the collapse of this economy so they could bring in that MOTB, that RFID microchip. Verse 15, neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. So very soon, there's not going to be any jobs available. There's not going to be any grinding, any 9-to-5s. Nothing's going to be moving, especially when they have another, a pandemic shutdown like 2020 with the whole HV going on right now, this new pestilence. Or they could just shut the grid down because we got to reserve energy. We got to reserve fuel. We got to reserve gas. This devil can come in with this new world order, in any shape, way, and form. And, that's what the elect and the remnant. We're already halfway through the year, and that's why Esau Edom's bugging out. He's about to bring in this great reset because he doesn't have a long time. And with that's going to lead to the collapse of the dollar, the collapse of this economy, the collapse of the stock market, every single bubble bursting. But it's all by design so this devil can bring in that digital prison. Digital prison, that's what's right around the corner, the MOTB system, where if you don't have that RFID microchip, you won't be able to buy and sell. You won't be able to have a job. People don't realize how important it is to, have a job, have an income, because everything is you gotta use a form of payment. You gotta either use cash, you gotta use a debit card, credit card, Zelle, Cash App. Once Esau Edom brings in that MOTB, the only way that you're gonna be able to have a job, you're gonna be able to pay rent, is by having that charagma, the MOTB, the RFID microchip. And ultimately, people are gonna be begging for that thing because there's not gonna be any jobs. So what is this devil going to do? He's going to offer that universal basic income. Hey, take this MOTB, this RFID microchip, and you'll be able to get a high universal basic income. You'll get credits. You'll get incentives on your chip. But once that happens, that's the only thing that America has in store is going to be a thermal nuclear destruction. But that's pretty much the point. Edifying unto the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakwadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who are in this truth from Drew well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. And to you I say shalom.